we have a really strong tier 2 system, but there's not many teams. So, like I have a feeling like it's slowly falling behind a little bit, and like I just trying to urge like I embrace the challenge, man. I want like really good teams here.
Hey guys, this is Pedro back with another interview, this time covering VCT Americas Stage 1 in Week 1. My guest at this time is none other than JoshRT, the head coach of G2 Esports, coming out of their opening match victory over FURIA at the start of said competition. Josh, massive W, massive congrats on the result, and it was one that, frankly, I didn't really think it would start off in that fashion with you guys being put into a 0-8 hole, but
Yeah.
fortunately, you guys were able to claw out of that hole and also overcome Furia in the same time frame. And so, gotta ask you opening words. What are you thinking? How are you feeling after coming off of that match?
Um, as usual, relief, but also I'm like really proud that like the players were able to come back. We were battle tested in Bangkok, and now we came back, and yeah, we're in an OA hole, and they were active. They were able to activate another gear, and then just really make the right adjustments, play to the level they can play at, and we were able to take away at least in a really convincing fashion after that. So I mean, I've been telling the boys like since the start of the season, for stage one, all the targets are on our back, and everyone's gonna be looked to like beat us. We're probably the team to beat. To not let anybody off easy, and they showed really good form. They showed a really good game plan that uh, knocked us like it didn't really catch us off guard, but like we did make mental errors to just give them that 0-8, and they played really well, honestly. And but yeah, like I think it's just another testament of our resilience once again.
I mean, even so, there was that. I would say the sense of urgency, or especially early on in that first half of Lotus. I remember you guys. I believe you called the two timeouts literally at the very first, like during that stretch. You can kind of
Yeah.
elaborate on that, whether I'm right or wrong. But like, how rough was it though, specifically on those first 8 rounds in that first half? You know, what do you feel just kind of affected you guys? Was it just basically like early stage jitters that kind of were still lingering within the team, or was it anything besides that?
It's not jitters. It's a lot of like when you come back from like a grand final for Bangkok, and you just go through all the international like opponents that are at the top of the regions, and then you come back. It's a different challenge trying to as a coach to try to like bring up the urgency, the hype of a match, and to not let any opponent or don't take them lightly. That's what I was trying to say. And they weren't taking them lightly. Fury came out with a really solid game plan. It was very reminiscent of what EDG should have done, I think, against us. But the EDG had a very different game plan against us. And I think they probably watched the game back. It's an exact compositional matchup, and they figured like this is the better approach in playing against us. They did show it, and we did anticipate it, but we just made a lot of these like errors that like gave them the openings to close those rounds out. So before you know it, this game is really snowball heavy, momentum based. 2 gun rounds lost, you're down 0-5. I think that might have been my first tech. We're trying to make adjustments, but you know they can go well once they have the momentum, they can just keep that up, right? So, and before you know it, it's 0-8, and I think at one point I'm like, guys, we just need 3 rounds, 4 rounds, and then we'll run it back on attack, just like they did. We can do the exact same thing. Just lock in and get these 3 or 4 rounds, and I think we just won the last 3 out of 4 rounds before going to the second half. Yeah, we were down 9-3. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I recall that from the interview. But yeah, I mean, it gets to the point where once both coaches have no timeouts and you let the players play, they're in flow state. They're reading the game really well, and it's fun to watch them close it out from just taking advantage of all the trading that we do. You know, going into these games.
I think an interesting thing that you pointed out, just sort of the recognition that Furia had in that prior match that you had with EDG on that map, and I think that was basically the reason that they went ahead and allowed you guys to go for Lotus, because Lotus has been always been a relatively strong map for you guys going back into 2024. For this year in particular, you guys have been 6-0 coming into today, makes it
Yeah.
7-0 right now. But like one thing that I want to ask you, just sort of the strength of Lotus. I mean, what has you guys be in a position where you guys kind of like pick that map, play especially well, and just kind of go off on a run that allows you guys to erase the kind of momentum that FURIA had at the beginning of this series.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like getting experience on the map. And that's why certain teams are really good at maps. It's just because like they've seen a lot of these situations and know how to play a lot of their situations correctly. Um, and since we're a good Lotus team last year, it's no surprise that we be good this year, even with different comps, because it's still the same map. You'll still have the same principles of play going into how you approach each part of the map, how you want to approach retakes, post plants, map control, um, the general macro, the micro between the players, and that's all. It's all like almost intact, despite the different agents, right? You still have the same kind of objectives. Like these are the fights that we want or we don't want, right? Um, but yeah, like at this point, the boys kind of experienced it all, or maybe that's too much to say. They experience a lot, so they know how to recognize and adjust when they feel the game is different. You know, so and no two games are different. Every game is kind of different, honestly. Um, but that's why like experience definitely matters, and the training matters.
Yeah, and it's just such in which you guys were able to kind of move on from that, kind of erase that from your heads and move on over to Ascent and then win in a much more cleaner fashion. I mean, going into Ascent, I gotta ask you the obligatory Waylay, Jogamo.
Yeah,
I had a chance to talk to him before the start of stage one, and he kind of hinted to me like whether or not he was going to pick the agent. It would be had we would have to wait and see. Obviously, you guys didn't really take that long for to bust out that agent.
yeah,
And also like sometime after in the post-match interview that he had with Dryad in the broadcast, he kind of mentioned about how he views it as a much better version of Jet. And so what I want to ask you, Josh, is what do you see in Waylay, in the presence, what kind of has you kind of looking at the agent as one in which you guys can potentially continue to pick her in subsequent matches in this season?
yeah. I mean, Waylay has one of the deepest dashes. It's really quick. It can capitalize on your teammates' utility. But like besides like, I don't want to like get to give a full breakdown. Jet definitely has its uses. It can survive more with its own smokes, but yeah, like functionally in a team environment, like they can kind of play somewhat similar. You know, maybe Jet's a little bit more self sufficient. But yeah, that makes up for a very interesting like play that you can do as a team in team play. I imagine it's like a lot harder in ranked. You know, like when it's disorganized play, but in organized play, like you can really do something. So yeah, I mean that's why I was I was kind of happy in the video like oh we get to show off the little ascent waylay and Alex can show off like what he's been working on. You can check out his streams. He's been grinding that agent, so like happy to give him the opportunity to show it off on stage.
Is it one in which we might see more of Giacomo Wele?
Oh, I can't tell you, man. I can't tell you.
Okay. Well, in
The
other words,
opposite, you know, other teams definitely watch these interviews, right? So, yeah, I mean, well, wait and see. Go pick our maps, you know.
you are definitely right in the sense that like everybody watches my interview, so definitely appreciate the honesty right then and there, Josh. And yeah, like oh, as I mentioned some time ago in the conversation, I've had plenty of opportunities to talk to you guys, especially particularly in beginning of this stage, and um, Valen had kind of talked to me about how the mindset of the team has kind of progressed from losing in Masters and having to kind of reset and move forward into the start of this stage. And so, like, I mean, in a lot of ways, going from one international to like the domestic is not really a new journey for you guys, particularly for yourself, Josh. But what I want to ask you though is like, in the sense that you are coming off of a grand finals loss in an international puts you in technically uncharted territory. And so, nevertheless, I want to ask you just sort of how have you kind of been focusing on adjusting the teams or more so refining the team's approach to the game from Masters Bangkok up until now?
I think the approach, at least towards this season, is still the same. Like we're going to continue to work hard, trying to innovate, trying to refine, and we're always going to keep working to that goal of like trying to win this league and then the next, and you know go to internationals. But yeah, obviously that loss was definitely tough for us. There was a lot of reflections. I asked for a lot of reflections from my players, and um, like there's not many opportunities where you get these kind of moments where you can have this test against your will of like how you really want to play this game. Um, and so they learned a lot about themselves, and I learned a lot about myself as well in those moments. And I think that's a really rare opportunity for growth. So just applying that growth mindset, just realizing like we will have another opportunity to do this, take away the lessons that we can take away, and keep on going without losing any enthusiasm or optimism. Right? That's the worst thing you can have when you come in and you're like, yo, that's my last chance, whatever. And that's players will have those doubts, right? But I will, as a coach, always frame it in this like rational, optimistic way. Like we're gonna get back, you know, um, and we're gonna earn it, right? We're gonna earn our another ticket to that stage again, and let's just keep working, right? As long as I honestly believe, like as people, if you just keep moving forward, you always feel great about yourself. So I mean, that's been the movement, in my team.
And hopefully such a movement can continue. Got one more question before I can wrap this up. Well, technically, the first like more so easiest match in the schedule is finally out of the way with the W. Now begins the, I would say, fun part. Taking on the rest of the group in MIBR, NRG, Leviathan, and Cloud9. I would say it's a gauntlet. How would you kind of view this upcoming stretch of games from now until, or more so amidst the journey to return to Masters this time in Toronto?
Yeah, I actually want to correct. Like, I know it's easy to say just now, like, oh, in hindsight, like that was that was supposed to be an easy match, but it ended up being a little bit tougher. I always view the first games back, the first opening game, always to be a little bit tough, just because like you don't know what they'll bring out. There's a lot of unknowns, and whenever there's a lot of unknowns, there's a lot of variance, and you just never know, like how what they've been working on, right? And like there's a lot of footage on us, and like it's very easy for us mentally to be um, like underestimating opponents, right? So I gotta flip it. But yeah, I mean, like every opponent in this league can do damage, and we can never take them lightly. That's always been my approach. They can all. It's Valorant, right? There's no ever like 90-10 game. It's always like at most like 70-30. And even then, like the margins are so slim. Like you saw how it was. Like we're down 0-8. We had to claw out of that. Like that can happen to any team in the world. So but yeah, the great teams are the ones that can respond to adversity like that, right? So hopefully we can be considered as that, and I will look forward to any test from MIBR, Leviathan, or I forgot what, like the rest of our group, Energy, C9. Like they're gonna test us. They're gonna want to really take us down. But I look forward to it. I think this will help us go into our next international. And I'm going to keep telling my players to embrace the pressure, the challenge, because ultimately we got to beat the teams overseas. We got to defend Toronto. Like that's the goal, and we got to make it the champs and win that champs trophy. So get like I want everybody to give their best shot because it'll push us and then help us learn. And same for them. Like I want our region to be strong. I honestly feel like our region is falling behind because
Mm,
of the fact that in APAC you can learn. I mean, since we've been there, you can scrim Chinese teams, like the other league. You have 12 other professional teams
mm.
and their respective tier twos, right? And the vice versa. There's so many more professional teams, and they're willing to experiment with their comps a lot more. You have a lot more comp exposure um, compared to the other regions. And we have our issues with like the Brazil Latam region. They have to go back home, like it's hard to scrim them. It's not really possible unless they stay here in Americas. And like we have a really strong tier two system, but there's not many teams. So um like I have a feeling like it's slowly falling behind a little bit. And like I just trying to urge like I embrace the challenge, man. I want like really good teams here.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it right there. Like, the system is such in which you guys are only able to like scrim with like the top tier two teams in North America, maybe a little bit in Latin America. You compare that to like what you just kind of mentioned, China, Korea, Southeast Asia, all of them kind of clustered together
And
in which
yeah.
they can kind of
Yeah.
play together. And also like EMEA, you got the regional leagues, all of that happening around. And yeah, like it's an interesting perspective that you provided to the audience as to like where your thoughts are in terms of the relation between Americas, China, Pacific, and EMEA. And yeah, like really do appreciate the insight you provided for this interview as always, Josh. I'm getting those
Thank you.
pings to wrap up, so I'm gonna have to do exactly that. Thank you so much, and hopefully I can talk to you again in another time, and of course at another W.
Yeah, of course. I look forward to all future interviews, man.
Of course, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, man. Take care, man. Have a good
Yeah.
rest of your day. Thank you.
Yeah. You too.